When billionaire Nathaniel Rhodes gets humiliated by his ex-wife's engagement invitation, he makes a desperate deal with a street musician that changes both their lives forever. Asterisk, the ivory invitation lay on Nathaniel Rhodes' mahogany desk like a death sentence. His hands trembled as he read Rachel's elegant script for the third time that morning, each word a calculated blow designed to resurrect old wounds. Rachel Thompson cordially invites you to celebrate her engagement to Jonathan Pierce. The Chicago skyline stretched endlessly beyond his corner office windows, a concrete testament to his empire. 3 continents, billions in assets, magazine, covers bearing his name. Yet none of it mattered now. Rachel had always possessed the supernatural ability to reduce him to nothing with a single gesture. His phone buzzed. Her name appeared on the screen like a ghost materializing from his darkest memories. "Nathaniel, darling. I was wondering when you'd call." Shh. Her voice carried that familiar blend of honey and venom that had once made him weak. At the knees, now it just made him nauseous. "What game are you playing, Rachel?" "No games. Just sharing my happiness with old friends. You'll come, won't you? I told everyone you'd be there with your latest conquest." Her pause was surgical. In its precision, "You do have someone special these days, don't you?" The silence stretched between them like a noose tightening around his throat. "That's what I thought," Rachel continued, her laughter musical and cruel. "Still the same Nathaniel. With numbers, hopeless with people. Don't worry, I'm sure you'll find some suitable arm candy by Saturday. You always were good at buying what you needed." The line went dead. Nathaniel stared at his reflection in the window glass. 42 years old, worth more than some small countries, and completely, utterly alone. Rachel knew exactly where to twist the knife. Since their divorce 2 years ago, he had thrown himself into work with manic intensity, building his empire while his personal life withered like a flower in winter. 5 days until Saturday. 5 days to find someone who could stand toe-to-toe with Chicago's most venomous socialite and not flinch. That evening, suffocating in his penthouse apartment, Nathaniel found himself walking through Grant Park. The October air bit at his skin, autumn painting the world in shades of gold and crimson. He had no destination, just a desperate need to escape the prison of his own making. Then he heard it. A voice like aged whiskey and midnight confessions drifted through the evening air, raw and beautiful and heartbreakingly real. Following the sound, he discovered a young woman sitting on a weathered park bench, acoustic guitar cradled in her arms like a lover. She wore a vintage leather jacket over faded jeans, her dark hair cascading in waves around sharp cheekbones. Her guitar case lay open at her feet, scattered with crumpled bills and loose change. The song she sang spoke directly to the hollow spaces in his chest, each note a key unlocking rooms in his heart he had sealed shut years ago. When the last chord faded, she looked up and caught him staring. Her eyes were the color of warm amber, holding a wariness that suggested she had learned not to trust the kindness of strangers. "That was beautiful," Nathaniel said, stepping closer despite every instinct screaming at him to walk away. "Thank you." Her voice carried caution like armor. "Most people just drop $1 and keep walking. I'm not most people," she studied. His expensive suit and polished shoes, with the calculating gaze of someone who had learned to read people for survival. "Obviously. Let me guess. You're slumming it, taking a walk through the park to feel connected to the common folk." Her directness hit him like a physical blow. Most people either fawned over his wealth or were intimidated by it. This woman seemed unimpressed by both. "I was thinking," he said carefully, "and your music made me stop thinking, which is probably the first time that's happened in years." Something in his tone made her expression soften, just slightly. The armor didn't disappear, but a crack appeared in its surface. "Rough day?" she asked. "Rough life?" The words escaped before he could stop them, raw and honest in a way that terrified him. She gestured to the empty space beside her on the bench. "Want to talk about it? I've got time, and you look like you could use a friend." When was the last time someone had offered him genuine companionship without wanting something in return? Nathaniel sat down, maintaining careful distance between them, like a man afraid of catching fire. "I'm Nathaniel. Sophia." She set her guitar aside, giving him her full attention. Felt like standing naked under stage lights. So what's got Chicago's elite looking so miserable in my little corner of the world? How do you know I'm elite? Her smile transformed her entire face, turning sharp edges into something luminous and dangerous. Honey, your watch costs more than I make in 6 months. Plus, you've got that look. What look? The look of someone who has everything money can buy and nothing money can't. Her insight cut through him like a blade made of truth. Nathaniel found himself studying this woman who saw through his carefully constructed facade as if it were made of glass. You're very perceptive for a street musician, he said. I prefer independent artists, Sophia replied with mock dignity. And you'd be surprised what you learn about people when you sit in parks and watch them pretend their lives aren't falling apart. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights begin to twinkle in the gathering darkness. The weight of his loneliness pressed against his chest like a physical thing. Can I ask you something? Nathaniel said finally. Shoot. If someone offered you a lot of money to pretend to be something you're not for one evening, would you do it? Sophia turned to face him fully, her amber eyes searching his face with uncomfortable intensity. Depends on what I'd have to pretend to be and why they needed me to pretend. This was insane. He was a billionaire CEO about to spill his deepest humiliation to a woman he'd known for 20 minutes. But something about Sophia made him want to trust her with the truth. My ex-wife is getting married Saturday. She invited me to her engagement party, expecting me to show up alone so she can humiliate me in front of everyone we used to know. I need someone to come with me. Someone who can hold her own in a room full of sharks. You think I'm that? Someone? I think you're the only person I've met in years who seems genuinely unafraid of anything. Sophia laughed, but not unkindly. You don't know me very well. I'm afraid of lots of things. Mostly of becoming someone I'm not, just to please other people. I'm not asking you to become someone else. I'm asking you to be exactly who you are, just in a different setting. A fancy party full of rich people who will look down on me the second I open my mouth. A fancy party full of insecure people who will be threatened by your authenticity. She was quiet for a long moment, her fingers absently plucking at her guitar strings. The soft notes floated between them like questions waiting to be answered. In it for me? She asked finally. And don't say money. I mean, what's really in it for me? Nathaniel considered her question seriously. Most people would have jumped at the financial opportunity without asking deeper questions. But Sophia wasn't. Most people, it's a chance to see a man who's forgotten how to be genuine, try to remember what that looks like. And maybe the satisfaction of watching a room full of pretentious people realize that real class has nothing to do with bank accounts. You really hate these people, don't you? I hate what I become when I'm around them, including what I became. When I was married to one of them, the admission hung in the air between them like a confession. Sophia picked up her guitar and strummed a soft, contemplative chord. I have 2 conditions. Name them. First, I get to be myself. I won't pretend to be some socialite or put on airs. If they don't like who I am, that's their problem. Agreed. What's the second condition? After this is over, win or lose, you have to promise me something. What? That you'll stop trying so hard to prove you're worthy of people who don't deserve you in the first place. Her words hit him like a physical blow, stripping away years of carefully constructed defenses. Was the last time someone had seen through his armor so completely? Deal, he said quietly. Sophia smiled and held out her hand. You've got yourself a fake girlfriend, Nathaniel. Just don't expect me to be fake about it. As they shook hands, something shifted inside him. Her skin was calloused from guitar, strings warm and real in a way that made his chest tighten. For the first time since Rachel had walked out of his life, he felt something that might have been hope. One more thing, Sophia said as she packed up her guitar. What should I call you at this fancy party? Nathaniel seems a bit formal for a girlfriend. My friends call me Nate. Do you have many friends? He considered the question seriously. Not really. It's mostly business associates and people who want something from me. Well then, Sophia said, slinging her guitar case over her shoulder. Guess I'll be your first real friend in a while. Nice to meet you, Nate. She walked away into the night, her figure disappearing into the shadows like a beautiful ghost. Nathaniel remained on the bench, watching until she was gone completely. What had he just set in motion? And why did the thought of Saturday night suddenly fill him with anticipation instead of dread? 3 days later, Nathaniel stood outside a small apartment building in Logan Square, holding a garment bag and feeling more nervous than he had before his first billion-dollar acquisition. The building was old, but well-maintained. Its brick facade painted with colorful murals that spoke of artistic souls and creative spirits. When Sophia opened her door, his breath caught. She wore an oversized sweater and paint-stained jeans, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, with tendrils escaping to frame her face. She looked beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with artifice or calculation. "Ready for your makeover, Cinderella?" she asked with a grin that didn't quite hide the nervousness in her eyes. The final choice was an elegant emerald dress that hugged her curves without being vulgar. It was sophisticated yet allowed her personality to shine through the expensive fabric. Sophia touched the small silver pendant at her throat, a gift from her grandmother. "It stays," she said firmly when one stylist suggested removing it. "It's perfect," Nate said. And something in his voice made her look at him more closely in the mirror, the way he was looking at her maid. Her heart skipped in a way that had nothing to do with their business arrangement. There was heat in his gaze. Yes, but also something deeper, something that looked dangerously like genuine affection. Saturday evening arrived with a crisp bite of autumn air. The engagement party was held at the Peninsula Chicago, its ballroom transformed into a wonderland of white roses and golden lights. Chicago's elite mingled beneath crystal chandeliers, their conversations a symphony of practiced charm and calculated interest. Sophia felt every eye in the room turned toward them as they entered. Nate looked devastating in his tailored tuxedo, but it was the way he held himself differently tonight that caught her attention. Less rigid, more relaxed, as if her presence had somehow freed him from an invisible cage. "Remember," she murmured as they paused at the entrance, "I'm not here to impress them. I'm here to be real. It's exactly why you'll outshine every person." "In this room," Nate replied, and she could tell he meant it. Rachel Thompson approached them with the grace of a predator. She was undeniably beautiful, with platinum blonde hair swept into an elegant chignon, and wearing a dress that probably cost more than most people's cars. Her smile was perfect and cold as winter. "Nathaniel, darling," she purred, air-kissing his cheeks, "you made it and you brought a guest." "Rachel, this is Sophia Martinez." "Sophia, my ex-wife, Rachel." Sophia extended her hand with genuine warmth. "Congratulations on your engagement. You look beautiful." Rachel's smile faltered slightly at the sincere compliment. She had been prepared for competition or intimidation, not authentic kindness. "Thank you." "And what do you do, Sophia?" "I'm a musician. I play coffee houses, street festivals, wherever. People want to hear music." "How bohemian," Rachel said, the word dripping with condescension. "I prefer authentic." Sophia replied pleasantly. The verbal sparring continued for several more minutes, with Rachel probing for weaknesses and Sophia deflecting each barb with grace and humor. Nathaniel watched in fascination as Sophia held her own against Chicago's most skilled social predator. "Excuse me," Rachel said finally, her smile growing sharper. "I should mingle with my other guests." As she glided away, Sophia let out a small breath. "That woman is terrifying," she whispered. "She's also jealous," Nate observed with surprise. "I've never seen her rattled like that before." The evening progressed like a carefully choreographed dance. Sophia charmed business associates with her genuine interest in their stories, made society matrons laugh with her quick wit, and navigated conversations about art, music, and culture with surprising depth. She was exactly who she had always been, but in this setting, her authenticity blazed like a beacon. Nate found himself falling deeper under her spell with each passing hour. The way she touched his arm when she laughed, how she looked at him, like he was the most interesting person in the room, the grace with which she handled every social landmine. It was all supposed to be an act, but it felt more real than anything he had experienced in years. "You're staring," Sophia murmured as they swayed together during a slow dance. "I can't help it. You're incredible tonight." Tonight, her eyebrow arched teasingly. "Every night, every moment since I met you." The words tumbled out before he could stop them, honest and raw. Sophia's eyes widened, and for a moment, the careful boundaries between pretense and reality blurred completely. "Nate," she began, but her words were cut off by a familiar voice. "May I cut in?" Jonathan Pierce stood beside them, handsome and smooth in the way that came from generations of privilege. His smile was perfectly practiced, but his eyes held something predatory as they fixed on Sophia. "Jonathan," Nate said carefully, "congratulations on your engagement." "Thank you. I was hoping to get acquainted with your lovely companion." Before either of them could object, Jonathan had smoothly taken Sophia's hand and spun her into his arms. Nate was left standing alone on the dance floor, watching as Chicago's golden boy whisked away the woman who was supposed to be his salvation. "She's lovely," Jonathan said as he led Sophia in a practiced waltz. "Tell me, how did you and Nathaniel meet?" "Through music," Sophia replied carefully, not quite lying. "Ah, a patron of the arts. How generous of him." Jonathan's hand pressed slightly. Lower on her back, more intimate than appropriate. "You know, Rachel mentioned that Nathaniel has been quite lonely since their divorce. It's good to see him with someone so spirited." Something in his tone made Sophia's skin crawl, but she maintained her composure. "He's a good man, oh, I'm sure." "He is, but men like Nathaniel, they have certain needs, certain appetites that require distinct companions." Sophia pulled back slightly, her amber eyes flashing with anger. "I'm not sure what you're implying, but I think this conversation is over." "Don't be naive, sweetheart," Jonathan continued, his grip tightening when she tried to step away. "We all know what this is. He's paying you to be here, isn't he? Question is, how much is he paying, and would you be interested in a better offer?" Sophia's world tilted on its axis. Jonathan's words hit her like ice water, washing away the fairy tale warmth of the evening and replacing it with cold, brutal reality. "Excuse me?" she whispered. "Come now, let's not play games." A street musician, suddenly appearing on the arm of one of Chicago's most eligible bachelors. Rachel did her homework. "We know exactly who you are, Sophia Martinez. Age 26, evicted from 3 apartments in the last 2 years, credit score in the basement. Nathaniel found you in Grant Park, didn't he? Singing for spare change like some kind of modern Cinderella?" Each word was a precision strike designed to shatter her confidence. Sophia felt the blood drain from her face as Jonathan's smile grew crueler. "The real question is whether you're naive enough to think this is anything more than a business transaction. He needed arm candy for tonight, and you needed money. It's perfectly reasonable, but I could offer you so much more." "You're disgusting," Sophia managed, trying to pull away from his grip. "I'm honest. Something you'll find refreshing after dealing with Nathaniel's pretensions. He's using you, sweetheart, just like he uses everyone else. The moment this little performance is over, you'll be back to your park bench, and he'll be back to his empty penthouse. But me," his hand traced down her spine possessively, "I could set you up very nicely." Chicago has many wealthy men who appreciate beautiful, accommodating women. The implications of his words made Sophia's stomach turn. She looked desperately across the dance floor, seeking Nate's familiar face in the crowd. When she found him, her heart nearly stopped. He was deep in conversation with a group of businessmen, his face animated as he discussed some deal or acquisition. He looked completely at ease, perfectly in his element among these people who saw everything and everyone as commodities to be bought and sold. For a terrible moment, Jonathan's poison took root in her mind. Had she been fooling herself? Was this all just an elaborate transaction to Nathaniel? Had she mistaken good acting for genuine feeling? "I can see the wheels turning," Jonathan murmured in her ear. "You're starting to understand, aren't you? This isn't Pretty Woman, darling. Rich men don't fall in love with poor girls. They rent them for the evening and return them when they're done." "Let go of me," Sophia said, her voice stronger now. "In a moment. No. First, let me give you my card. When you're ready to graduate from charity cases to real opportunities, call me." He pressed a business card into her palm, his fingers lingering inappropriately. "I promise you, I'm a much more generous benefactor than Nathaniel could ever be." The song ended, and Jonathan released her with a smile that made her skin crawl. "Think about it. Beautiful. This fairy tale ends at midnight, but I could give you something much more lasting." Sophia stood frozen on the dance floor as Jonathan melted back into the crowd. Her hand shook as she looked down at his business card, its expensive cardstock feeling like poison between her fingers. "There you are." Nate's voice behind her made her jump. "I was looking for you. How was dancing with the golden boy?" She turned to face him, and something in her expression made his smile fade immediately. "Sophie, what's wrong?" The nickname, which had sounded so sweet from his lips hours earlier, now felt like mockery. She saw him through Jonathan's eyes now. The expensive suit, the practiced charm, the easy way he moved through this world of predators and prey. "Nothing," she said, forcing a smile. "Just tired. It's been a long evening. You can leave if you want. We've made our appearance." Rachel's. Seeing that I'm not the pathetic, lonely bachelor she expected, "We've made our appearance." The clinical way he phrased it cut through her like a blade. This had all been about appearances, hadn't it? About proving something to his ex-wife and her circle of vultures? "Yes," Sophia said quietly. "I think we should go." The ride back to her apartment was filled with tense silence. Nate made several attempts at conversation, but Sophia's responses were clipped and distant. She stared out the window at the city lights, Jonathan's words echoing in her head like a poison mantra. He needed arm candy for tonight. And you needed money. When the car stopped outside her building, Nate turned to her with concerned eyes. "Sophie, please talk to me. What happened back there? You were radiant all evening, and then suddenly you shut down. Did someone say something to upset you?" she almost told him. The words were right there, begging to be spoken. But then she saw the envelope. On the seat between them, the payment they had agreed upon, sitting there like evidence of her own foolishness. "Thank you for tonight," she said formally, picking up the envelope without looking at it. "I hope you got what you needed." "What I needed?" Nate's voice was. Confused, almost hurt. "Sophie, I thought tonight felt like more than just our arrangement. I thought you felt it too." His words should have been balm to her wounded heart, but Jonathan's poison had done its work too well. She heard calculation in his sincerity, strategy in his sweetness. "Good night, Nathaniel," she said, using his full name like a barrier between them. She was out of the car and running up the steps to her building before he could respond. The envelope clutched in her shaking hands like 30 pieces of silver, inside her small apartment. Sophia stood in the darkness for a long moment before walking to her window. Below, she could see Nate's car still idling at the curb. His silhouette was motionless behind the tinted glass, and she wondered what he was thinking, after what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. The car finally pulled away, disappearing into the Chicago night. Sophia sank onto her couch, and finally opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $50,000. $50,000 for one evening of pretending to care. About a man who lived in a world where everything had a price. She stared at the check until the numbers blurred through her tears. In the morning, she would tear it up and try to forget this night had ever happened. But right now, she allowed herself to grieve for something that had never been real in the first place. Outside her window, the first hints of dawn were beginning to paint the sky, and Sophia Martinez had never felt more alone. 3 weeks passed, like a fever dream. Sophia threw herself into her music with desperate intensity, playing every venue that would have her, busking on street corners, until her fingers bled and her voice grew hoarse. But no amount of melody could drown out the memory of emerald silk in the way. Nathaniel had looked at her like she was something precious. The check remained untouched on her kitchen counter, a constant reminder of her own foolishness. $50,000 that could solve every problem in her life, and she couldn't bring herself to deposit it. She was packing up her guitar after a late-night set at a dingy blues club when she saw him. Nathaniel Rhodes sat alone at a corner table, nursing what looked like his fourth whiskey and staring at her with eyes that held too much pain. He looked terrible. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his expensive shirt wrinkled, and there were shadows under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and unanswered questions. "How long have you been here?" Sophia asked, approaching his table despite every instinct screaming at her to run. "Since your first song?" His voice was rough around the edges. "You're even more beautiful when you're angry." "I'm not angry." "You're furious. At me, at yourself. at the whole damn world. I can hear it in your music." He gestured to the empty chair across from him. "Please, 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." Against her better judgment, Sophia sat down, cup close. She could see the toll the last 3 weeks had taken on him. This wasn't the polished billionaire from the engagement party. This was a man coming apart at the seams. "You never cashed the check," he said. "How do you know that?" "'Cause I've been watching my account like a hawk, hoping you would." It meant that some part of what we had was real. His words hit her like a physical blow. "What we had was a business arrangement. You said so yourself." When did I ever say that?" "You didn't have to say it. It was obvious from the beginning. You needed arm candy. I needed money. Mission accomplished." Nathaniel leaned forward, his eyes blazing with something that looked like desperation. "Is that really what you think? That you were just arm candy to me? Weren't I, Sophie?" No. The nickname sounded broken coming from his lips. That night was the first time in years that I felt like myself. The CEO, not Rachel's ex-husband, not some prize to be won or lost. Just me. And it was because of you. "Stop." She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "Just stop. I can't do this." "Can't do what? Pretend that we're something we're not? Pretend that people like you and people like me can? Have real relationships. We live in different worlds, Nathaniel. Oil and water. That's bullshit and you know it." He stood too, his control finally cracking. "You're running because someone got in your head? Someone convinced you that what we felt was fake? Who was it? Rachel? One of her attack dogs?" Sophia's silence was answer enough. "Tell me what they said," he demanded. "It doesn't matter what they said. It matters what's true." "Then tell me what you think is true." The question hung between them like a challenge. Sophia closed her eyes, summoning all her courage. "I think you're a good man trapped in a world full of sharks. I think you're lonely and scared and desperate to feel something real. I think you saw a broken street musician and thought maybe she could save you from yourself. And I think I'm just naive enough to have let myself believe that a fairy tale could have a happy ending." Nathaniel was quiet for a long moment, processing her words. When he spoke again, his voice was deadly calm. "You're right about some of that. I am lonely. I am scared. I was desperate to feel something real." He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne mixed with whiskey and something essentially him. "But you're wrong about the most important thing, which is you didn't save me from myself, Sophie. You saved me from becoming something I wasn't. There's a difference." Before she could respond, he was walking away, leaving her standing alone in the empty club with tears streaming down her face. The next morning, Sophia found a letter slipped under her door. Her name was written on the envelope in Nathaniel's careful handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a new check. This one was for $500,000. "Sophie, you were right. We do live in different worlds. But you were wrong about why I gave you that money. It wasn't payment for services rendered. It was a gift, freely given, because you gave me something I didn't know I was missing. The new check is for your music. Not because I think you can be bought, but because talent like yours deserves to be heard by more than drunk patrons in dive bars. Start your own label. Record an album. Do whatever artists do when they don't have to worry about rent. I'm not asking for anything in return. I'm not trying to buy you or control you. I'm just trying to give you the same gift you gave me, the freedom to be who you really are. The offer expires in 24 hours. After that, I'll never contact you again, but Sophie, if you decide to take it, know that it comes with no strings attached, no expectations, no obligations. Just one man's way of saying thank you to the woman who reminded him what it felt like to be human," Sophia read the letter 17 times before the words stopped. Blurring together, she walked to her window and stared out at the city, the world of possibilities stretching endlessly before her. 20-3 hours and 47 minutes later, she walked into Nathaniel's office building. The security guard looked skeptical when she gave her name, but apparently she was expected. The elevator ride to the 40th floor felt like ascending to another planet. His assistant, a crisp woman in her 50s, looked her up and down with barely concealed disapproval before gesturing toward the corner office. Nathaniel stood at his wall of windows, silhouetted against the Chicago skyline like a figure from a dream. He didn't turn around when she entered, but his shoulders tensed. 13 minutes, he said quietly. What? You have 13 minutes before the offer expires? Sophia walked across the vast office until she was standing beside him at the window. Below them, the city hummed with life and possibility. Deposited. The check, she said. He nodded, but still didn't look at her. Good. You deserve to have your music heard. I have a condition. Now he turned, his eyes guarded but hopeful. What condition? Take me to dinner. Somewhere that doesn't require a dress that costs more than my rent. Somewhere we can talk without worrying about impressing anyone. Slow smile spread across his face, transforming his features from corporate sculpture back into the man she had fallen in love with in Grant Park. I know a place, he said. They serve the best burgers in Chicago, and the only dress code is that you have to be hungry. Perfect. She moved closer, close enough to see the flecks of gold in his eyes, close enough to count the laugh lines that money couldn't buy. One more thing, she said. Anything. Next time someone tries to tell me what we are or aren't, I'm going to tell them that love doesn't follow rules, doesn't care about bank accounts or social status or what other people think is possible. And if they don't believe you, Sophia rose on her tiptoes and kissed him, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. Then I'll show them, she whispered against his lips. 6 months later, Sophia's first album hit #1 on the indie charts. The title track, Gilded Cage, was a haunting ballad about finding real love in a world full of false promises. Critics called it raw and authentic, a voice that cuts through the noise of modern life. But Sophia's favorite review came from a small music blog that wrote, "This is what happens when someone stops trying to be what others expect and starts being exactly who they are. It's beautiful. It's real. It's everything music should be." Was reading it for the 100th time when Nathaniel came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and nuzzling her neck. "Still reading reviews?" he murmured against her ear. "Now this one's different. Listen to this." She read him the passage about authenticity, and he smiled. "Sounds like they get it, like they understand what you were trying to say, what we were trying to say," she corrected, turning in his arms. "That song is as much about you as it is about me." They were in her new apartment, a spacious loft in a converted warehouse that managed to be both elegant and authentic. Gold records hung on exposed brick walls next to her grandmother's paintings. It was a space that honored both where she came from and where she was going. "I have something for you," Nathaniel said, producing a small velvet box from his pocket. Sophia's heart stopped. "Nate, it's not what you think. Well, not exactly what you think." He opened the box to reveal a delicate silver chain with a small pendant shaped like a guitar pick. "It's made from the metal of your grandmother's necklace. I had a jeweler melt it down and reform it. I thought you might like to carry her music with you when you perform." Tears spilled down her cheeks as she touched the pendant. It was perfect, honoring her past while celebrating her future. "How did you?" she began. "She told me once that she taught you your first song, that her necklace was all you had left of. Her music. You can wear it on stage, and she'll be there with you every time you sing." Sophia kissed him then, pouring all her love and gratitude into that single moment of connection. When they broke apart, she was laughing and crying at the same time. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you for seeing me, for believing in me, for never trying to change me." "I love you too," he replied. "For saving me from a life I didn't even realize I hated, for showing me what real looks like." Outside their window, Chicago sparkled in the evening light. The city that had brought them together now stretched before them like a promise of all the adventures yet to come. "So what happens now?" Sophia asked, nestling against his chest. "Now we write the rest of our story. Together. No scripts, no expectations. No one else's definition of what we should be. Just us? Just us." Sophia smiled, thinking about the long journey that had brought her from that park bench to this moment. The pain, the fear, the moments when she had almost walked away from the best thing that that ever happened to her. Sometimes the most beautiful songs came from the darkest places. Sometimes love found you when you least expected it, in the form of a lonely billionaire who heard your music and recognized the melody of his own heart. And sometimes, if you were very brave and very lucky, fairy tales did come true. Not in the way you imagined them, but in the way you needed them most. I have one more condition, Sophia said playfully.
Oh no, what now?
When we get married, I want to sing at our own wedding. Something I wrote just for you. Nathaniel's eyes widened. When we get married? When, not if. I've seen the ring box hidden in your sock drawer. He laughed, the sound rich and free and full of joy. You're supposed to act surprised when I propose. I'll act surprised about the timing, but not about the answer. She stood on her tiptoes and kissed him again. It's yes, by the way. It's always been yes. As the sun set over Chicago, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Nathaniel Rhodes and Sophia Martinez held each other close and planned a future that belonged entirely to them. No more gilded cages, no more pretending to be someone else. Just two souls who had found their way home to each other, against all odds and despite all obstacles. In the distance, a street musician played a familiar melody, the notes drifting up through the evening air like a blessing, like a promise, like the first song of forever, the end.